All right, we will go ahead and get started. So if you haven't done the registration form in the past, which I'm going to guess most of you that are on have done it before, there's the link to do that. And then the handouts for tonight, there's the link for those there if you didn't get those earlier as well. So you should be able to get those things and be able to follow along. We were waiting for you to start.
Oh, okay, thank you.
All right, so our topic tonight is going to be on vaccinations and parasites. So we'll do kind of a little bit of healthcare stuff, a little bit of review of some things we've done last year, but also some different information. Okay, so again, there's that link. It's in the chat box if you haven't registered before, but I think everybody that's on is in there. David, your cat had worms. Well, it's good. We'll talk, well, not good, but we'll talk about that and what we can do to prevent it and what to think about in those cases. All right, and then now the link there again, it was up in the chat box, but if you need the activities worksheets, there's those. Feeling like this is the month that I figured out how exactly I wanted my slides laid out, finally a year into this. So tonight we're going to talk about immunity and how it works, how animals develop immunity and what that means, and then we'll talk about vaccinations, what types they are when we give them, how those work, and then we'll do a little bit on some parasites, in particular fleas, ticks, and mites are going to be the ones that we talk about tonight. So, there are two types of immunity that we're going to talk about. Immunity is something that provides us with protection against microorganisms or infection or disease. And so immunity, one of the things that it does is produces antibodies and things that fight off pathogens or things that might make us sick. And there's two types of immunity that we have or that animals have to help protect them. And the two types are passive and active immunity. And so we'll talk about what each of those are and how those protect us or protect a cat from getting sick. So passive immunity is where the animal gets their antibodies from somewhere else, like they're not made by the animal themselves. So there's a couple of ways that cats can get this or animals can get this, right? They can, but the primary way that we think of them getting antibodies from us is from their mom when they're kittens, right? And so another animal has produced those antibodies to a specific disease, and then cats get it. So with kittens, right, with newborn kittens, they have to nurse within the first 36 hours after they're born. And when they do this, the milk has the antibodies to things that the cat mom has been exposed to. And so it's going to provide that kitten protection against diseases that the mom has protection against. So if you vaccinated your cat, your mom cat, right before she got pregnant, it'll protect against those things. It'll also protect against some things that the mom's had and been able to fight off. So for example, kids now don't get chicken pox, right? But if you had gotten chicken pox, your body fought it off, then you have antibodies, so your mom would give you those to help fight it off. So these only last, though, for a few weeks. They won't protect the animal for their whole lifetime, right? They stop nursing at about 8 weeks of age. They're no longer getting more antibodies from the mom. And so there's only a limited window of protection for these. And it lasts anywhere from 6 to 16 weeks. So by the time the kitten is 16 weeks old, she no longer has the protection of from the diseases that the mom's been exposed to. And she has to develop her own immunity or her own antibodies to those diseases in order to stay protected. So why do they stop protecting the cat? Well, it's just because as they age, right, they're not getting any more from the mom, and so they go away or they decrease. So active immunity is when the cat is exposed to a pathogen, right? Something that might cause a disease, and then they start producing their own antibodies. And so this can start at somewhere around 6 weeks of age. And so they can get that protection by being exposed to the actual disease itself, which we hope, right, our kittens aren't getting actual diseases. But the primary way, and the thing we're going to focus on a lot, is vaccinations, right? So vaccinations are a way to provide antibodies, right, to expose the cat to something that's going to provide antibodies and help them take care. So when do they get vaccines? We're going to talk about when we should vaccinate our cats in just a little bit. Active immunity, right? The body is going to respond to pathogens. They produce a lot of antibodies on their own, so it actually provides a lot better protection. Active immunity does than passive immunity. And so it's really beneficial to the cats to have that active immunity. But the effectiveness does decrease over time. So the longer it's been since they've been exposed to that disease or had that vaccination, the less time less protection they're going to have as they get older. Okay, so the first, let me grab the packet. The first activity we have in our packet, we're going to do now is the Feline Fleecevirus Instruction Manual. So for this worksheet, you're going to pretend that you're the virus, right? You're a feline fleecevirus, which is a type of disease that a cat can get, right? And you're going to fill in this manual, right, where one virus is teaching the other viruses what they need to know. So this below is a section taken from their instruction manual that they give to all new students, right, all new viruses that are learning about being a better virus. And so fill in the blanks using the words in the word bank below to fill in those sentences. And so hopefully you guys can get them all. If not, I'll give you a couple minutes and come back together and try to answer them as a group after you get a second to fill in that worksheet. Yeah. Huh? No, you won't use all of the words in the bank, so there will be some that you don't use. And let me know out there when you're done, or if you get stuck on one, we'll come back together as a group. Wait a second, I'm done fast. I did it during. Yeah, you started already. Did you get them?
My brains are being fried and we haven't even actually started.
All right, why don't you guys let me know in the chat box when you get them all done?
I'm done.
All right, hang on, we're going to share together in just a second. All right, let's go back and let's see if we can answer those questions. So when you enter the cat's body, you have to watch out for, do you know what that blank was there in that first one? What did we come up with? Antibodies. They will fight you. They hate anything that is thought to be a blank. Something that causes the cat to get sick. What's that next one? Yep, pathogen is the right answer there. A cat can have two types of immunity. The first is from antibodies that are made outside of the victim's body and is called blank immunity. You could say it out loud and they'd hear you.
Passive.
So passive immunity, right, is that next box. You may be in luck though because if kittens don't drink their blank within 36 hours after being born, they won't get this immunity. What's in that blank? What do kittens need to drink?
Milk.
Milk, yep. That's your chance to invade. Even if a cat does get passive immunity, it will wear off after blank.
16 weeks.
Yep, 16 weeks was the answer we got in here, so 16 weeks. Attack now. You have to be careful though, because by this point the cat may have developed the second type of immunity called blank immunity.
Active.
Yep, active immunity. It's hard to type this fast. In this type, the cat has already been exposed to a certain pathogen and will have made blank of antibodies. You want to know what that one was? Yeah, a lot, right? Was the answer to that one. The exposure might have been from having the disease before or from having a blank that contains traitorous pathogens. Vaccine. Right, so the vaccine is we're gonna talk a little more about how vaccines have altered pathogens to this type of immunity blank over time. So if the cat was vaccinated a long time ago, your evasion could be successful. You know what that last one was?
Decreases.
Yep, decreases. Good luck, viruses. There might not be immunity in your chosen cat. So really quick, just to go through those blanks. The first one was antibodies. The second, pathogens. The third, passive. The fourth, mother's milk. 5, or the fifth one, 16 weeks. Then active. Then a lot for the seventh blank. Vaccine for the 8th, and then the last one was decreases. So that should get us all of the blanks on that sheet. No, people wouldn't want them to be successful, right? But the vaccines would want to be successful. The viruses would want to be successful, right? All right. So we're going to talk next a little bit more about vaccinations and how they work. And this might help answer some of those questions that we had a little bit ago. So vaccinations help our cat to develop active immunity, right? To be able to protect themselves against viruses or other pathogens. And so there are 2 types of vaccinations that we can give our cat. We can give them a modified Lyme vaccination or a killed vaccination. And what this is depends on the type of pathogen that's in this. So what this is these are the viruses or something from that might cause a disease. So for example, rabies, right, that we vaccinate our dog for, or calicivirus or feline leukemia, right? So these would be the viruses. So modified Lyme vaccinations are giving you a version of the virus that's still alive and can replicate actively in the animal's body, but it's been altered in a way that it's no longer infecting the cat or going to cause the cat to get sick. So we'll talk about that more in a minute. And then killed vaccines would be like this one here, right, where they're no longer a living vaccine. They can't replicate, but the exposure to that virus, that killed virus, will allow for the cat to develop immunity against the disease. And so by giving the cat a vaccination with this form of the virus, right, it's going to allow the cat exposure. They're going to produce antibodies to it, but then they never get sick. So like I said, a modified live vaccination has a weakened form of the microorganism. And so it doesn't cause the animal to get sick at all, but the virus still can replicate in the animal's body. It causes a stronger immune response so that cat actually develops better immunity to a modified live vaccine. And so they last a lot longer. You don't have to give these vaccinations as often as you would a killed vaccination because it's going to provide longer lasting protection for the cat. So again, here kind of laying out, right, the pathogen in that modified Lyme vaccination can replicate some of the body, but not make the animal sick. So you produce more of them. There's a big immune response that then is going to produce this active immunity that's going to last for a while in the cat. And so they're producing a lot of antibodies in response to that vaccine, and it provides it long-term protection. And then the other type of vaccination is an inactivated or a killed vaccine. And in these cases, it's a killed form of the microorganism, so it can't replicate anymore. So the only kind of form of it they get is what's found in the vaccination. And the benefits of this is that it has a longer shelf life, so it can last longer because they're killed and they don't have to store them the same way. They're safer, right? There's always a little bit of a risk that the cat might get a little sick or have some side effects from a modified live vaccination, whereas with a killed vaccination, there's not as much of a chance of them getting sick. And this one can take more doses of the vaccine though. So that's kind of a downfall of the killed vaccination, is it might take more replication. So one example of a killed vaccination is that rabies, because rabies is so infective and it's so, like, it's going to be deadly if an animal gets rabies. Rabies is always given as a killed vaccination, so there's no risk of infection or the animal getting sick from it. But a lot of the others are going to be given as that modified live to give the animal a stronger immune response. So kind of which one is better depends on what virus or what thing we're trying to protect our cat from. So there are a group of vaccinations that all cats should be given, and these are what we call our core vaccinations. So there's sort of 4 core vaccines that we would give all cats. So again, if you guys did showmanship right at the county fair, you maybe had to force yourself to learn how to say these right, and there were horrible words to say. So panleukopenia, herpes virus type 1, the calicivirus, and rabies virus are the 4 kind of core vaccinations that are given to all cats. Kind of no matter the cat's lifestyle. There's a few others that you might give depending on the cat's lifestyle or what kind of things that we would see in the cat. And so it sort of depends on your cats, so indoors or outdoors, some of those things. So when you're giving vaccinations, so when your cat goes to the vet to get vaccinations, or if you give vaccines on your own, generally what we give is one combination vaccination that's providing protection for these 3 diseases, the panleukopenia, the herpes virus, and the calicivirus. Sometimes there's other diseases covered. This is for like a 3-way vaccination. Sometimes if you have like a 5-way that has a few more, but these would be the core ones that we would want to make sure in there. And so these can be given as one. Generally, these are a modified Lyme vaccination from your vet, and then rabies is always given as a separate vaccination, and this one would be a killed vaccination in all cases. And then in the state of Nebraska, right, the rabies vaccination is required by law, and so all cats, right, that we're keeping as pets should have that rabies vaccination under Nebraska law. So someone had asked earlier how often, right, or when do we give vaccinations to our cats? And so this is kind of talking about our schedule or when we would want to do that, right? So all cats get the core, those core vaccinations, at a minimum those 4. And then there's some non-core ones that you would talk to your vet about that you might get vaccinations for otherwise. So when you first get a kitten, right, you're going to want to do some vaccinations earlier on. So thinking about 6 to 8 weeks, and then about 3 to 4 weeks later, right, so we'll do a couple booster shots. And so the reason we do the first vaccination at 6 to 8 weeks is that's going to be the time frame, right, where that passive immunity from their mom is starting to decline, right, and they're just starting to be able to develop their own active immunity. So we want to make sure we're vaccinating them at a time where they have protection, either from the passive immunity or their own active immunity. We never have a chance where they could get those diseases and not have protection, because young kittens especially are really susceptible to a lot of these diseases and might get sick or die, right? And so we want to make sure they always have protection from passive or active immunity without getting the disease, right, to make them actually sick. So most of these vaccinations are then given a booster at a year of age, and then a lot of them we can do every 3 years. Some of them you can do every year. It depends on your vet and what they suggest. Rabies can be done every year or every 3 years, again, depending on what your vet says. So a lot of people will do the vaccinations every 3 years once they've got through the kitten set and then that first booster at a year of age. And so this is going to provide them, right, lifelong protection. You guys are all still in school, right? And so at different points in your time, right, it's babies try to get a lot of vaccinations. You don't remember any of those, right? But there's a whole lot of series of vaccinations when you were really little. And then as you got older, right, they're not as often as you go throughout school. All right, so we have some questions here. So feline herpes virus actually causes respiratory disease in cats, which is kind of fatal sometimes in kittens, and so that's what that's from. Yes, there is a disease that causes the gunk in cats' eyes. It's from a chlamydia type virus. So it's called, right, conjunctivitis, and if kittens get that at a young age, that's where you'll see them like with the eyes that are kind of gunked over or swollen over. Usually they'll have that virus at the same time as they have something that causes respiratory infection, and so the combination of the two will make them extra sick when they're younger. So again, the vaccinations early are going to help to prevent that from occurring. But yeah, it's pretty common to have that gunk in their eyes, especially in kittens that are outside and maybe not vaccinated, or the mom didn't have that active immunity. So the virus that causes the gunk in the eyes only causes the gunk in the eyes. But it's almost always found in combination with the viruses that cause respiratory disease, so cause the sneezing, runny nose, kind of flu-like symptoms in our cats too. Those are really going to challenge me with questions, I feel like, tonight. Let's see how well. All right, so someone had asked a little bit a while ago about where you give vaccinations to. And so when we think about where you give vaccinations or give a shot, right, in our cat, there's kind of 3 different places where it can be done. And so intermuscular means that the shot is given into the muscle, right? So it's all the way down into that muscle layer. This is pretty rare for cat vaccinations, but sometimes you'll see things that are given into the muscle. And if you're doing that in a cat, it's usually kind of in their butt area, their rump, right, where there's a bigger muscle, because cats don't have a ton of musculature in other spots. But you don't see that one done a lot in cats. Where most of them are going to be is subcutaneous. Right, that would be right under the skin. So if you watch your vet when he goes to give your cat a vaccination, they might kind of pick up that fold of skin on the back of your cat's neck, right, and put it in there. And so what they're doing is just going underneath the skin. So between the skin layer and the muscle, they'll give the injection there, and that's where most of them are given. So you'll see them kind of pull that extra skin up behind on your cat's neck and do it there. And then intranasal is another type of vaccination, and these are given up the nose, right, intranasal. These tend to be shorter lasting, and it might be things for like Bordetella, right, which causes kennel cough or respiratory infections. If you buy some of the over-counter ones that you get at like the farm store or something, they're sometimes intranasal because then you're not getting the needle, right, and it's less risk for the person to injure themselves. But they can do it that way. It's a little bit tricky to give an intranasal vaccination to a cat. I have done it, but it's kind of hard, right, if they're scratching or not. Yeah, my recommendation is to put them inside a sweatshirt sleeve so only their head is sticking out. And then they can't scratch you, right? Or make sure you have someone who can help make sure you're not getting scratched. So why do they use muscle shots? It's some types of, usually it's not for vaccinations, but there are some types of medications that are going to be most effective if they're given into the muscle. And so then you see it done there. It's also done a lot more commonly with bigger animals like horses or cattle where they have those big muscles we can give the vaccination the shot into. I would assume that a tranquilizing dart goes intramuscular, but we probably wouldn't do those with our cats. right? All right, so that brings us to the next activity sheet we have, right, which is our vaccination jumble. So this sheet, it says, Polly was researching cat health, but the information he found on vaccinations got all mixed up, so help Polly sort everything out. And so at the top part, right, we're going to draw a line to connect the word to its description so we know which words match with the ones across the bottom, that's on the across from it. And then underneath, right, we're going to unscramble the words to finish the blank in each sentence. So we'll see how that goes. So I'll give you a few minutes to work on that.
Done.
All right, let's give everybody here just a minute. So don't post the answers yet. You're done. Are we all done? So we'll go through the answers in just a minute. I think we're done here too. Okay, so what do we, oh wait, Adriana needs just a minute more, it looks like. All right, so if we're gonna draw a line for modified live vaccine, what thing do we connect that one to?
Weakened form of a microorganism.
Yep, the weakened form of microorganism. So then a killed vaccine. These have long answers. Right, a vaccination with a longer shelf life. Intramuscular injection. What does that go into?
The muscle.
Yep, yeah, the muscle. Subcutaneous injection.
Most common ways to inject.
Yep, the most common way to give vaccinations. Intranasal injection. Where does that one go in?
The nose.
The nose.
Okay. All right, and then our word scramble at the bottom. Vaccinations cause the development of blank immunity. Who knew that one?
Active.
Yep, active. All cats should get the blank vaccination.
Core.
You gotta just say it faster now. Shout the next one out. The rabies vaccination can be given every 3 years.
3.
What two types, or subcutaneous injections are given under the skin?
Skin.
2 types of vaccinations are
Killed.
and modified.
Live.
The blank vaccination is usually given separate from other vaccinations. Rabies, yeah.
Rabies.
Why would they give shots in the nose? Well, a lot of times one, it's used for bordetella, which is like kennel cough, which those bacteria reside in the nose normally, so it's getting it closer to those. But then it's also safer, like if they're selling it to people who are vaccinating their own cats, right, for those people to give a vaccination.
Yeah.
Giving a vaccination into the nose. It doesn't have a needle on it then, you're just squirting it up their nose. And so then you don't have the risk of like the person poking themselves with the needle or doing it incorrectly. It's a little bit harder to do wrong. And so it's a lot of times, you won't see a vet do it except for Bordetella, but you can see people doing it, so they're doing it on their own. It's a little safer. Good questions. All right, so the last part tonight is to talk about some parasites. Parasites are a microorganism that live either on the outside or inside the animal's body, and it's going to feed on the animal's blood or tissue, and so they're feeding or having a benefit while the animal has sort of a detriment to it. So we commonly see parasites living in places like the small intestine, right? So we have some worms, like somebody mentioned the cat had worms. Those will be in the intestines of the cat. Maybe we heard of heartworm, right, that live in the heart of a dog or a cat. And then there's other parasites that live on the outside of the animal. These are called external parasites, and those include things like ear mites, fleas, and ticks, right? We're looking at this cat, he's scratching, right? Maybe he's got some fleas. Those ones that live on the outside are going to cause some itching and irritation that'll bother the animal. Your cat has ticks, your dad just takes them off.
Yep.
So ear mites are one of the most common external parasites we see in cats. It's really common in cats that are kept outside. And they're easily transmitted from one cat to the other, and so if cats get ear mites, it's really important that we treat it and take care of it right away. If you guys have you go to take your cat to the county fair and they have someone look your cat over before, it goes in with the other cats, they're looking for signs predominantly of ear mites, right? Because they're really easy to spread between cats. So we want to make sure nobody gets ear mites, right? A lot of cats, right, get ear mites. So ear mites, the signs of ear mites, right, are their ears might be red, they might smell bad. And there's this black kind of waxy substance down the ear. And what this is that's essentially the poop of the ear mites, right? They're feeding on the dead skin cells in the cat's ear, and then that black waxy stuff is their waste product that they're producing, and it's building up in the ears. And so if you see a whole lot of it kind of in the cat's ear, they've had an infection for a long time and it's really built up. And so it can be really uncomfortable for the cat. Going to cause a lot of itching. They're going to scratch at their ear, a lot of head shaking. It can affect their balance and sense of hearing as it builds up in their ear. Yeah, it's pretty gross. And this is what an ear mite looks like under a microscope. They're pretty small, so you can't actually see them, but what you're seeing is their waist. So someone asked how we treat it. So there's a medication you can buy, it's called an oticide. And what it is essentially a drop. Some drops they're going to put in the cat's ear, and you kind of swish it around in the cat's ear. And then you'll want to clean their ear out with like a cotton ball. You don't really want to use a Q-tip in your cat's ear because you can stick it in too far, but like a cotton ball and kind of keep trying to clean that waxy substance out. It can require treatment, a couple times a day. And treatment can last for about 3 weeks. You have to keep doing it for a while, so you make sure you kill off all of the ear mites. Then you get their ear cleaned out thoroughly. You want to make sure you clean their environment. So if it's a cat that comes inside and you find it, you want to clean their bedding and other things so that you're not having it transmitted there. Again, if one cat has it in your house, they're probably all going to get it, so you want to treat everybody. It really easily spreads to other dogs and cats. And so we want to make sure we kill it off on everything before it gets worse. All right, so the other parasite, the next one we have on here is ticks. Somebody mentioned those. The good part is a lot of cats will remove ticks from themselves when they're grooming, right? So ticks are related to spiders, right? If we look up here, right, they have 8 legs, so they're an arachnid like spiders. They do feed on the blood of the animal that they attach to, right? So you can see this really big swollen one. There's different species of ticks. dermatitis of ticks, so you can see that there's like a little one. This one. The ones that get all big and swollen like this, they're consumed a lot of blood, and this is a female one. The males stay small, and the females get bigger, so that they have more energy to lay eggs. And so they'll feed on the blood of the animal. So they kind of burrow their head down in the animal when they're feeding. And you know, it's really easy to get them. They live in wooded, bushy areas, so if you guys go out on a walk, you know, in tall grass or a hike, right, you can come in contact with them pretty easily. And so it's pretty normal to have had one on you before and get them. I think probably most of us have. So they kind of jump on people or cats right as they walk by. And so they can feed on pretty much anything that's warm-blooded. They can transmit other diseases. So one of the big things we want to be concerned about is making sure that we're not, you know, leaving them on too long, because we can get things like Lyme disease from them. The photo in the corner. These are all 3 pictures of different ticks. Is that what you're asking about? This one's a big tick. So somebody said their dad just takes them off, right? And so when you go to take them off, you want to be careful about doing it. They do burrow their head down in the animal, and so when you go to remove them, a couple of things you might want to have is tweezers, right, to pull them off with, alcohol, and a disinfectant to clean out afterwards. And those can help you to remove the tick from your cat. One nice thing about cats is because they groom themselves a lot of times you don't see ticks staying on cats. The cats will kind of groom them off before they really burrowed in. And so thankfully with cats, we don't have to remove them quite as often as maybe dogs or some other animals. So if you're going to try to do it, if you're going to do it by yourself, you're going to remove them, we recommend dipping the tweezers in alcohol. The alcohol will help make the tick back out because of the smell. And so putting the alcohol there, you can put it on like a cotton ball and put it in front of the tick. It's kind of back out, so then you're not trying to pull them out. Because if you just try to pull them out, a lot of times because their head is burrowed, it'll stay in the cat and it can cause an infection at that site. So we want to make sure we get the whole tick out. So then if we put some alcohol in first, we're going to use our tweezers, right, and just pull that tick straight out. And that'll make sure we get all of it. And then clean it with a disinfectant, right? So it might be just a little bit of blood when you get it out. You want to make sure you kill the tick or flush it, right, so that it doesn't go right on something else once you've removed it from the animal. And so make sure that we don't cause further problems. Huh? You release it outside, but then it might get on something else. Our last parasite we have is fleas. Fleas are a wingless insect that feed on the blood of animals as well. And they can be found inside or outside cats, so they'll live happily inside. Kind of the thing about fleas, right, is that they sense like changes in temperature, so as things get warm, right, so like a mammal walking by them that might be warm, and increases in carbon dioxide. So right, the animal's breathing out carbon dioxide, right, and breathing in oxygen. When that carbon dioxide comes out in that warmth, ticks start jumping up and down in hopes that they land on the animal, right, because they're wingless, and so they just kind of hop up and down and they'll land on the animal, and that's kind of how they get attached to the animal. But they can be found on the animal inside or outside, and they are found predominantly in the base of the tail and the stomach, but can be found anywhere on the animal. Is there any way to tell if a tick is old or new so you can be worried? Not really. Females, if they're really swollen like that one picture, might have been there for a while. Generally, like, we want them to be removed within a couple of days. If you live somewhere or your cats are outside where they have a high exposure to fleas and ticks, if you use a preventative, they'll die before, they'll attach still, but they'll die before they've been on for too long, so you don't have to worry about any of those diseases. Good question. All right, so fleas, right, they're going to jump up and down. They'll land on your cat or a dog or other animal, right, and live there. Fleas are more common when it's warm outside, so we want to pay more attention to maybe preventatives when it's warmer. The same with ticks. And when you're looking to see if your cat has fleas, right, maybe you notice they're scratching more and you're looking, you can look for signs like black spots, which again is basically the flea poop on your cat, right, so down to the skin. in between the hair, and that can be a sign that it's there. You have people call it flea dirt, and they can sometimes see the fleas on the animal as well. So one of the things we can do to help prevent fleas and ticks is to give some kind of control product. So one example is Frontline. And these types of topical products are more effective and safer than using like a flea collar. And so it's better to do these ones from your vet clinic than a flea collar. And so make sure you're choosing one that's for cats, not something for small dogs, because the dosage is different in cats than dogs. So make sure we're doing it for cats. And if you're going to use it for a young cat like a kitten, make sure that you've chosen one that works for them, right? So this one's for 8 weeks and older. And we don't want to use it if our cat's sick or something before we talk to the vet. So these work by, right, so we said walk your cat line here. So you want to separate the cat's hair so you can get it down all the way to the skin. So make sure you kind of spread their hair apart and get it down to the skin so we can treat it in that area and get it on the skin to do it. These are usually once a month. Right, this one's for fleas and ticks. It's best to look for one that kills adult fleas and the flea eggs, like this one says, right? So we're killing off all the life stages of the fleas. Somebody asked if flea collars can hurt cats. Yeah, in some cases, some cats are really sensitive because the chemicals to kill the fleas are in that collar, and it's sort of rubbing against that spot on their neck all the time, and so that can be a negative. And they're also sometimes not as effective as something like this, where it gets kind of in the sebaceous gland and spread throughout the skin. So good questions tonight. All right, so when we're wanting to make sure we're protecting our cats from parasites, right? So we talked about vaccinations, help protect from some diseases and viruses. To protect from parasites, one good way to do it is just to keep our cats inside and not limit their exposure, right, to things that aren't found in our house. So we limit our exposure to ear mites and fleas and ticks, right, if our cats are kept inside and not exposed to a lot of other cats or other animals that are found outside. When you're grooming your cat or playing with your cat, make sure you check for parasites. And make sure there's not an issue, right? If you have outside cats, when you go feed them and handle them, make sure you look and see, make sure that you're providing this preventative treatment in order to prevent it, right? If you get a new cat, you want to check for those parasites or treat them right away for those so that they don't spread it to your existing cats. All right, do you guys have any questions before we go to the next activity? I feel like we've answered a lot of questions as we've gone. Okay. So we have, in the little bit of time left, we've got one more activity. And so this last worksheet, right, is our parasite trivia. So we're going to test how much you learned tonight about parasites. And so you're going to mark each statement if they're true or false. If it's false and you remember the right answer, you can write down a corrected version of the statement, okay? So give you guys a couple minutes to do that. All right, when you finish up, let me know and we'll go ahead and go through those answers. Yeah.
Done.
All right, are we all done? We're close enough?
Yep.
Okay. We'll start going through these then. So you guys can just shout it out, or if you type real fast, you can type it in the chat as we go through these. So number 1, ear mites are most common in indoor cats.
False.
False.
Yep, false for that one. So what word would you correct?
Indoor, I would make it outdoor.
Yep, so ear mites are more common in outdoor cats. Number 2, a cat who keeps shaking his head could have ear mites.
True.
Yeah, true.
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 Number 3, ear mites can spread to other cats and dogs.
True. True.
Number 4, spiders and ticks are related.
True.
True. All right, number 5, ticks feed on blood, but fleas don't.
False.
False.
False, right? They both feed on blood. Number 6, ticks are more likely to be found in the woods than in your school.
True.
Thank
True.
goodness, right? Number 7, fleas have wings and can fly.
False.
False.
If they don't have wings. Number 8, fleas are only found on indoor cats.
False.
False.
Right, they could be on indoor or outdoor cats. Keeping a cat inside is one of the best ways to prevent parasites. Oops, I skipped one. Number 9, sorry.
True.
Number 9, if a cat has fleas, they will most likely be at the base of the cat's tail and on her belly.
True. True.
Number 10, keeping a cat inside is one of the best ways to prevent parasites.
True. True.
Number 11, you only need to check your cats for parasites once a year.
False.
False. Yeah, you should check them on a regular basis, maybe every day or every few days, right? Number 12, flea and tick control products labeled for dogs can be given to cats if used in small doses.
False.
Yep, we only want to use ones that are made for cats. And then number 13, any cat-approved flea and tick control product can be given to kittens.
False.
False, right? We want to use one that's specifically labeled for kittens if we're going to use one for our kittens. All right. So our next meeting is in January. So it's January 11th. I think that's maybe the first week back for school for maybe many of you after break. And so we're going to talk about some basic cat care things, kind of a catch-all one. So talking about a cat-safe house, enrichment, right? Things we can do to entertain our cats, and then we'll talk some about grooming our cats. So that's going to be our topic for next month. If you guys have a minute, I'll put the link in the chat box too. Fill in that survey before you go. Let me flip over and get that link. That's not Wait. The heater is not responding very fast to get the. Come on. So if you just take a minute or two to fill that survey out really quick. Oops, I think I sent it to just one of you instead of all of you. There's that link if you want to take a second to fill it out. If you guys ever come up with other topics you want to make sure we cover, let me know that. So I'll give you a minute or two to do that. I'll see you guys all in January. Have a good holiday break.
Bye-bye.
And we'll see you guys next month.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
So happy. Are you gonna do a survey, Natalie?
Yes. I'm doing it first. Oh, no, you were last.
Try and stop her.
Dang surveys are so fun.